Hey guys, today is Casual Friday, and that means it's Medium Nancy Matz Friday. And today's topic is, how do you feel when you visit a cemetery? We'll be right back. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust, turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Happy Friday, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Coming into a nice, beautiful, warm week in California. Not really all that hot yet. It's getting there. Towards mid-May, end of May, we're going to be dying here. My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour. I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team out of Sacramento, California. We are 45 strong up and down the state, which means if you have a paranormal need or you think you might... Whoa, what did I just do? Hang on, I just clicked something. What happened? Oh, there we go. That was weird. Anyway, sorry, I'm hitting buttons. Oh, I see. I never used that toggle before. Okay, sorry about that. Which means if you have a paranormal need or you think you may have a paranormal need, we can help you. It might take us a while to get to you because California is a very big state, but we can definitely get to you. And in the case that we can't get to you, we do have a psychic, or some psychics on staff who can phone you and talk to you about what may or may not be going on. And in most cases, they can settle down what's happening there if it is paranormal, so we can get out there. Never takes us more than 1 or 2 days to get to you. Okay, that being said, you can find us everywhere on the internet. Just Google California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team, Google California Haunts Radio, you'll find us. Also, if you're watching from Facebook and YouTube today, and a lot of you are, please feel free to follow if you hadn't done so already over on Facebook, and please feel free to subscribe on YouTube if you haven't done so already. A lot of videos out there on YouTube, and I'm starting to categorize everything so you can find stuff easier. So go ahead and check that out. And same thing for Facebook. Got a lot of videos over there. And like I said, if you like what you see, feel free to follow and all that good stuff. And the only thing Nancy and I ask is that you show us a little love during the show. If you like the show, and that means happy faces, thumbs up, hearts. Those heart thing, I still can't do it. The heart thing, that kind of thing. And that goes for all of it. If you're on YouTube, Twitch, show us some love. Show us some love. We enjoy what we do. We enjoy educating you and bringing you good information. Okay, tonight's topic is, how do you react? It's actually, how do you react when you visit a cemetery? How do you feel? How do you react? Okay. Anyway, it's been one of those days. But I'm going to bring Nancy on here in a second. And I did promise you guys that we would look at those orb photos because last night we had technical difficulties. So as soon as Nancy comes on up, we're going to take a look at those orb photos real quick before we really get into this. There should be an interesting discussion tonight. Let's see what's happening with Nancy. Maybe. This is how it's gone. Push the
that tall, that switch you accidentally hit. I'll never forget one show. She goes to put me on or something, and she drop me off the show. I don't know what you did.
I've done this before, where I'm looking at all the stuff I uploaded to the show itself, like the orb pictures.
Yeah.
I've never hit the button because usually I'll go to the other button where the chat room is. And I re-hit the button to where the pictures are. And I hit the button and everything disappeared except for me. And I was like, what did I do? Because that's what happened with Corel yesterday for these orb photos, was that I hit something on Corel and it went into some setting, which isn't wrong. It's a proper setting for it. But it's not where I wanted to be. And since I didn't know what the hell I had done, I didn't know how to get back. So that means I had to shut Corel down, and Corel takes like 5-10 minutes to power up for whatever reason. Oh. So by the time it was like 10 minutes to the show, and I was like, we're done. That's the end. So
I'm sorry. The audience may not be aware, but I'm getting ready to. I'm going to start editing all the talks and the readings. I have probably 31, 32 years worth. I've kept a lot of them. The cassette tapes, when I was doing cassettes until 2012. And so from 2012 till now, I have all most of, I'd say 90%. I had a lady call, she says 2012, and I had the hardest time looking. I thought, well, what's wrong with it? And I called the tech guy. He says, well, that's when you had to buy your new computer. And I went, oh my gosh, that's right. My computer is 2012. That little bit of a window. But so I'm getting ready to edit all those tapes. And the problem is I haven't been at it so long like Shar. You have to learn the programs all over again.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
It's kind of, the longer you wait, the older you get, the harder it is to relearn everything all over again. So I'm kind of like...
You'll get the program installed and then the updates will come. And then you have to relearn all that stuff because the updates change everything.
That's right. And that's what happens.
It sucks being old doing this. I can tell you that. Before we really get swinging, I promised Penny Rummel yesterday that I would show some of the photos that she sent me because I didn't get a chance to. So let's do a quick run through that and then we'll get into the show. Okay? So here we go. And like I said last night, and I'm trying to be perfectly honest here, I am a fan of orbs under certain conditions. You know, I've gotten some really nice orb shots that I feel that I've been able to verify. So, you know, who am I to say anything? You know, I think Penny's book is terrific. You know, it brings out a positive thing for people, and people need positivity. And I think some of her orb photos are really good. So here we go. So here's one we didn't get to yesterday. It's up here in the corner, off to the right, kind of floating by. Take a look at that one for a couple seconds here, and then I'll flip on to the next one. Okay, next. Up in the trees. I was at a cemetery in Georgetown working with the newspaper with my team, and I did get orbs up in trees like that, up above the graves.
Well, there's two of them there.
Yeah, you can see the one up to the right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I lost my camera. Okay, so it's going to be like that tonight, huh? Why would I lose my camera? Guys, what I'm going to do in that case, I'm going to finish looking at these orbs. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reset everything because the camera will come back. So what I'll do is I'll reset. You guys can come back in. It's not a problem. It's not like it's going to lose the whole show. But everybody will have to come back in. Otherwise, I want to look like this little bouncy blob thing. Okay. So there's one there. Yeah, that's a nice size one. That almost looks like it has the face in it there.
Well, that one has filaments coming off the top into the center. Yeah, that's kind of different. I've never seen it like that.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Kind of like a big spider ball.
Yeah. Okay, this one now. That's cool. Very cool.
That's very, well, the TV is very bright.
Yeah.
But that's kind of different. It's a luminous glow in the dim lit room.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is lit from the commercial there on all sides. Now that's
interesting. Yeah.
That's very interesting observation. Mm-hmm.
It is interesting.
And you cannot see through it other than the slightest from the doorway there.
Yeah.
Ever so slightly a line. I like that one.
And that one in motion. That's a nice motion. Very interesting. That one. There's two of them there. You got the one coming towards you, that big blob, the one full of stuff, you know, that white one, and then you got a lighter one over to the left, at the bottom of the bush.
Right.
Over there.
Mm-hmm. It looks like it's in front of a rock or something.
Yeah. So that's cool. Okay. A couple more here, and then we're gonna reset the page. You guys have to come back in. You'll find me.
Oh, do I have to have a different link?
No, it's gonna be the same link. I just have to just hit the reset button up there, you know, to refresh the page.
Okay.
That's what I'm gonna do to bring myself back in. I hope. I don't know why it's been so sensitive. It irritates me. I haven't touched anything. And then here's the last one. There we go. Looks like we got some ethereal mist going on here.
Yeah, I can see a face in it too.
Yeah.
But it could be the branches behind. I mean, you know, good for her for catching these. I mean, how hard is that?
Yeah, this is in her backyard, so this is really cool.
Where is it she lives?
In her backyard. She lives up in Washington State.
Washington State?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if one state over another has more activity, but I would think that water or state in Oregon would have something to do with it. A lot of electricity in the air.
Okay, let me make some adjustments here, and I want to fix this so that every time I move, I don't touch that. All right, I'm going to refresh the page, guys. Come find us again. It'll be the same show, same links, all that good stuff.
Shar, do I back out?
Come on.
Are you there?
Why is it not letting me in? Hang on. Maybe take the orb off? It's not letting me in now. Go away. Okay. Okay, there we go. Wrong button. That's how the night's going to go. Okay, we're back. I got Nancy back, so we're good.
You know, when we talk about this before, I need to have the leave studio button. Tell me if I push that or just...
Yeah, you're okay. You're okay. All right, so we're back, and Jerry was watching, Marisa was watching, and there was somebody else watching, and I'm sure they'll find us again. Oh, there's 5 people watching. Very good. We're still here. Everybody's still here. Nobody got lost. Okay, now hopefully we get something done right. Something will go correctly today. I gotta be careful because I don't know what it is about this camera and the connector for it. Very little movement makes it trigger, to disconnect. So I don't know what
loose wire or the plug.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't.
Or the USB plug area could be dirty, or it's breaking down.
There's something weird going on. It's breaking down after 4 years. Finally, it's been 4 years with the same camera. Okay, cemeteries.
Oh, you were going to. Oh, okay. So I can start, or do we have more to talk about the orbs?
No, we're good. I just wanted to show the photos. What I want to talk about with cemeteries is I want to tell you guys, Nancy Matz and her tour of the Old City Cemetery. I try not to be an impressionable person. I'm a ghost hunter. I have to, a journalist. I have to be, right on that level thing. But I can tell you honestly, I ended up going on a history tour with my brother-in-law at the Old City Cemetery after doing Nancy's tour twice. And so I was pretty versed on where all these ghosts were. I had it up here. In fact, during the day, that telephone pole.
Oh, yeah.
The power pole where that guy sits up there and he's looking down and everything. Even during the day when I go by there, I'm always like, yeah, that's cool. That's where I want to be, When I go, I want to be on top of a pole watching the world.
Not necessarily. It was always there. Go ahead.
But knowing where all these ghosts are really had more of an impression on me than I figured. I go on this cemetery, this lantern history tour. We're going through the cemetery, and I get itchy feet, which is nothing new there. So I take off on my own with my camera, and I'm walking through the cemetery. And I get to that part where I'm way across from where John is, right? Right? Because John's doing his little spiel over there.
Oh, John Betancourt. Okay, so we're talking about the tours, not with your brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I left my brother-in-law, and I took off on my own.
Okay.
To wander through the cemetery. But the whole time I'm wandering across the cemetery, I'm thinking about all these places where you said the ghosts were. So I'm kind of like, doing
You're aware of them. And the hanging tree in the back.
Yeah, and knowing that they're all out there watching me probably, So I get to that area where you described the girl that had died on Christmas Eve, the one that was in the blue dress that was dancing.
Oh, the woman. It was a woman.
Whatever it was, yeah. So I'm thinking about this. I get over there. Well, what I didn't realize was that the cemetery people, Betancourt included, had hired actors.
Oh.
And dressed them up.
Oh, this is a different tour, not mine.
Huh? Yeah, but it's matching, okay? He dressed them up based on your tour.
Mm-hmm.
So every stop they made in the cemetery was based on yours, okay? So they had these people dressed up, and I didn't know it.
Oh, I love it.
So I'm sitting here, it's pitch black back there, walking around thinking, oh my God, the ghosts are out here. I wonder if something's going to, touch me or something as I'm walking around. This woman stands up from behind this grave. She's dressed in a blue dress, starts dancing. And that was the scream heard clear across Sacramento.
Of all people, not you.
And Betancourt saw me and just busted up because he knew me, right? For doing all this stuff.
Uh-huh.
But honest to God, it was just the wow factor when that happened. Now, I can tell you, the hanging tree. Let's talk about the hanging tree. My mother was with me. on that one tour we went with you.
Uh-huh.
And I remember we got over that hanging tree area. I was taking photos. And this is before you said it was a hanging. There was something else near this tree. We were just getting over there, and my mother goes, "I could smell lemons. Is there a lemon tree here? I could smell lemons." Right after that, Nancy says, "Well, there's a hanging tree over here, but right next to it, there used to be a lemon tree." So, my adventures.
I probably could smell it. Now, people would say, and I do have a program I'd like to talk about. How do
Okay.
I do this? It was early 90s, and I was invited to go to Seattle. And so I went, and there was a couple events up there and took advantage of it. And I was entertaining like a theater in the round, but small, kind of like a 20 by 15. And it had a lot of people on benches, kind of low bench, medium, and then high, and then higher. And I started describing the town as it laid out prior to this shopping mall with a theater in it. And I could see different and someone said something. I says, "Well, I'm seeing layers in time."
Mm-hmm.
And someone questioned, "Well, what are you?" You know, and that there was a couple of very intuitive ladies in costume dresses that you would see the bells and whistles of a gem store. And they said, "Look at her hand, look at her hand." I go, "What's wrong with my hands?" And I had these big M's in the middle. And they said, "Oh, you're," and I have to let it go because I just don't know anything about that. But I did
Mm-hmm.
take away from it that there's something to be said about layering. And how am I able to do this in the first place? And most of you have never seen me before or listened to me before. And I had a wonderful opportunity from, I think, 95 to 2001 to entertain and make money for the Sacramento City Cemetery. Originated with 1865. There was earlier burials, but John Sutter is the main one. You come in, there's a big obelisk to him. And and so he asked me who was there and what's going on. And so some are older, some are newer, but I could see the spirit people there. And I'm really good with visuals. I can't hear their name because now there's so many cultures that talk to me. I can't get, I have trouble. English, was born with a tongue that doesn't work 100%. But anyway, so make a long story short, I can see different layers and time
Mm-hmm.
versus just looking at the cemetery and get an impression. I'll see the people laying around. So going back to the hanging tree, and then if you walk in, it's to the left all the way to the rear. How can I remember this right? And there was there was two hangings and two bad guys that were one to the hanging tree, and then over in the corner toward the fence there was another um, execution. And so when I saw the tree, then I would see the hanging, but I also then saw the bush. And it was one of those bushes. It wasn't a big tree. It was one that had kind of um, no one trimmed it, so it was just like a big bush and had the lemons on it. Now that I can smell it too,
Mm-hmm.
um, and people's, how do you do that? And I can smell perfume. I can smell gunpowder. I can smell liquor or a bar. You know, it's kind of scary at times because I think, oh, it must be my imagination. You know, I'm crazy, and then no, you're not crazy. But it's awful sometimes difficult to live with this because I do put a barrier up. I don't want to see, excuse me, everybody, someone who's a man here with a white shirt and blue pants. I want, oh, sorry. He's looking at me. Okay, wait a minute.
Hey,
Um,
Jerry has a request of us. Look at this. Watch this. He
where
says,
is
"Click
she?
follow." She said, "Now read it."
Oh, yes, I would love to have a picture. It is fun.
Oh,
Hello, Jerry.
yeah.
Nice seeing you tonight, dear.
That would
You
be
know,
fun.
I
We haven't
don't
done
know.
that in a long time.
It's been such a long time. I wouldn't even know.
In fact, I think
Uh,
the last one
have,
you did was Murphy's.
with you,
At the Murphy's conference, yeah. That's the last one we did.
with your group, yes, because I did the
Yeah,
Rockland Cemetery a couple times later.
yeah. That's the
But I've
last one we
always
did
lived
was
so
Murphy's.
far, yeah. And the events in Phoenix, Tucson, and some of the Sierra Vista in Arizona. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Okay,
life
go
is
ahead.
life, and we not necessarily have gone to a place where we're doing all those events anymore. But anyway, I don't want to get off track. Tonight's topic, and I really, cemetery tours are very difficult because you have to really think about relaxing and get the story of a stone. And John Betancourt, he'd say, "Tell me a story," and he was deadpan look, not like, "Oh, you got something," or you know. And then a week later of the tour, he would tell me if I'm wrong or not. Well, I must have done well enough because he died in 2000, and then they had, um, I think it was his wife that organized it, Connie. So there was one more year, and it was 5 months a year. 4 or 5 months a year, maybe 2 a month. I can't remember, but I must have been good enough because I got a lot of people to. They made a lot of money, restorations of cemetery stones. I want to go to a place of visiting a cemetery, and then I added funeral. And what I would like to talk about tonight, I want to address the idea that these are emotionally crippling situations. If
Yes.
you go to, we're not going to talk, and Char, this is what Char does for a living. I mean, not for a living, she's newspaper, but when she does a cemetery tour, she needs to give the show on expectations. Mine is from how you deal with these things, and I got a lot to talk about. But at the same time, do we think about the spirit that's there? That spirit that is determined to stay where they saw their family last. I'm going to address a couple of things like that. And then after a while, they could even go insane. Like, I'm all alone. How come everybody's not talking to me?
Right.
Well, 3 years ago, we moved down from Black Mountain, Hornbrook, California. And my husband drives me around and everything. He knows I enjoy cemeteries, which most people don't. But he drove me around, and 2 out of 3 had these people there. And I go, "Did you do this to me? I thought you would enjoy it." And I says, "Oh my God, I can't look because if they see me, I won't be left alone." And you don't want to. Oh, Nancy, you can tell them not to bother you. I go, right, right. I mean, how hard is it? I get people and I don't know who this guy is. Kind of nice looking man, 6 foot. Anybody have a 6 foot? Um, Possibly lighter eyes, thinning hair. How old are you? I don't know, but he has a little bit of a waist to him, blue pants, white shirt, light colored. Okay, light colored. I wonder if it's someone in the audience. He's even got darker shoes on, so he's more recent, maybe. I don't know. He created his whole. Oh, wait a minute, his arms aren't showing very well, so it could be 10 years. I don't know who he is, but sometimes they show up and it's for somebody coming, but I won't see them unless we're talking about it. And all of a sudden, it's like them. I want to talk about what I spent hours. I approached this from the grieving family direction, and then I thought, wait a minute. I don't want to spend time on how a family handles grief because you can have therapists after a death. They recommend you go therapy, or while the person's dying, if you have noticed. There was a family that got killed and only one child survived. Pardon me. The parent and 2 children died. And they were talking about how, and I says, "Oh, that's a wonderful place to start talking." And I went, wait a minute. I want to visit a cemetery, or if I'm requested to go to a funeral from the spirit of whom we're going to see. How do you deal with that? And of course, I'll intertwine. I had hospice training. I worked for Universal Christ of the Master. It's a spiritualist church, California, for 15 years. So I had a lot of introduction to all the aspects of spiritual life and survival. And I live my life knowing, like, like this guy right here, we do survive. And I'm not crazy. I see this. And Shara and I did a show one night. Who's standing next to you? Well, I've done that a few times on other shows. And again, I'm not crazy. I mean, these people are recognized. So we do survive, but I don't know that we keep it in our mind. We'll say, "Oh, Nancy's entertained."
I got a question real quick from Marisa. Marisa, I have a photo and I can't prove it. Her question was, does John Betancourt hang out in that cemetery? You know what?
Mm-hmm.
I can't say for sure. Karen Clark and I were in the cemetery. We were doing photos. And psychic, remember, Karen's a medium. So we're in the cemetery doing photos one day, and she had sat down there's an area that's like a meditation garden. It's got a
Mm-hmm.
fountain in there. And we were sitting down there, and I took a photo of her. She's holding a cigarette, but she's not smoking. And right off to her right shoulder, there's ethereal mist right there. So the
And was
question
that
is,
John Betancourt's fountain?
yes,
Uh-huh. So
that's
you
what
were
my
sitting
question.
at his fountain.
Yeah,
As you said that, I had a feeling that he does spend a lot of time there. Who
See, that's what I
knew?
thought because Karen's sensitive anyway, right? And then that's he loved Nancy, so why wouldn't he like gravitate towards Karen and from the afterlife?
Who
So
knows? Who knows?
I had a
Why
feeling
not?
it was Mr. Bencourt. All right, go ahead. Sorry, I just had
Well,
one. Yeah,
going back to him, he was a lovely man. This man here is not John Betancourt. He was
no.
very thin, over 6 foot tall. Um, I found it curious that I would do the cemetery tours, and he admitted to me after the first time he had me, he tested the Dickens out of me. I know some of you had listened to the shows. The very first one was a lady who was bent over, crying about her 3 babies being there, and of course I was only 2 on the marker. So the night of the tour, he said he had found the 3rd baby that had been buried somewhere else had been relocated to that stone. It was in the records, but not chiseled on the stone itself. And later he says, after the first night and the things that you said, you've made a believer on me. I thought, you weren't a believer and you hired me to do this? Which I only got minimal dollars, everybody. I spent 2 hours each week going with him, talking of all the stones.
Hmm.
And then I'd do a 3-hour tour for a little more than $100. So it was very donation time for sure. But I did find it curious that he ended up dying of cancer in 2000. So
Hmm.
was I doing that for his benefit? He was such a lovely man, just really nice man.
He is a terrific guy.
Okay, yeah, really, really, really. So I've done quite a few shows on spirit kind, spirit,
Hmm.
different ways of looking at spirit, different personalities of spirit. Cemetery tours, you're going to have different kinds of people there. And I hit on some things that might be interest to you. Realize that an hour show, and we're starting a half hour late, probably take 40 to 45 minutes. Uh, but it's only the tip of the iceberg. If you kids want me to talk more, you're going to have to write a note to Shar, so I'll continue because I
Yes.
can only write so fast and bring up so many high points. So this is how it starts. As a listener, we will not be talking about ghosts. As a listener, we will not be talking about ghost investigation at a
No.
cemetery.
No.
Rather, how to talk to spirits and ghosts while attending a funeral and the subsequent cemetery burial. And why I did that is I thought we need to have some kind of a flow. So I will talk about some of this. I could handle an hour and just handle grief or bereavement, how to grieve, facing your loss, acknowledging the deceased, and will you live your life with a partner or child, how to recover healthy. So if you have a child and the father dies, or if you have a child and the husband, there's different ways of grieving, and most people don't know how to do it. If you lose a child, it breaks up marriages. So there's a myriad of situations. And in my practice, I do have a lot of grieving. Absolutely, a lot of buildup. Husband dies. It was a year long helping her. The the death, the recovery, a new beginning, a new start in life. I've covered many, and a lot of my deaths are of adult age groups. And we do have children that pass away. It's terrible, but they have their own grief system. And nowadays with the internet, you can have, oh my gosh, get on YouTube, anything you want to know about grief recovery. I've taken hospice a couple of times when it wasn't on the internet. I worked in the church. Yes, I can talk about this. It is very, very difficult to talk about because no matter what you talk about, you will leave somebody out. That's the way it is. Just somebody out. Um, that's when I realized I needed to address this talk on attending the emotions of grieving, but to address the needs of the deceased. And we don't think of them as much. It's always difficult to know what to say, especially when younger people are involved, like a child of a couple. We seem to accept and allow our older family members for us to leave. And this happened in my own family. My great granddaughter, who's 5, somehow at school or someone was talking. And my ex-husband, their great grandfather, was over visiting, and the 5-year-old looks up at him and says, "You're going to die, aren't you?" Of course, he's not ready. He's not sick even. And it startled him. He kind of went back a little bit, and it was known that they were talking about it at school or church or something. And they're introducing the idea that things like this do happen. Because you know what it is? We're watching TV with a lot of people getting killed.
Hmm.
They can't help but see cartoons even. Even, I think it was Frozen or Frozen 2 or something. And it was, I had it on. I wasn't watching something in the background. It was even the comedy shows, or people are dying, and the little kids are sitting there going, What is this dying? What does that mean?" Well, nowadays we have to expose our children to the truth early in life. Otherwise, what are you sheltering them? So this was a real shock to me that a 5-year-old was telling people, "You're old, aren't you? You're going to die." My ex-husband, I guess his eyes must have got this big. Like, are you telling me something? Okay, so an unplanned loss is hard to put your emotional mind around. Sometimes too big to comprehend. So, say your boss at work dies, and then you go to somebody. It's not an emotional risk as someone in your family or close friends. And talking about my ex-husband, the high school, I met him in high school, and he had a best friend who just recently, within 6 months, passed away. And I was kind of surprised how I was grieving because a piece of my past has now been, the door has been closed to that experience with that person. And so that, and I know many of you, including Shar, have lost people, that life is no longer in your world. Now, just because I wasn't close to Win doesn't mean I hadn't thought of him, because we had some amazingly good times, and we were married when he and his lady got married in Tahoe. Sometimes it's too big to comprehend, as they were not part of your physical presence anymore. I've discovered that some spirits choose not to immediately pass, but will stay with family to help with the grieving process. And that movie, What Dreams May Come, really does address this. And there is a downside to that too, because and people who aren't aware that, I'm so sorry, I can drink coffee, but I have allergies, and it's been really bad this past week. I would say a couple of weeks, because I think my voice was off last week. Apologize. So, What Dreams May Come, I like the way he wanted to be around his living wife. They had 2 children got killed in a car accident. And then, unfortunately, some year back in the future, that he got killed. And so she's been grieving. And he wanted her to know how important she was. But by doing so, he was hovering around her, and she couldn't recover because the loss was ingested over and over and over. So I don't know that spirit people know that. I think that they're hungry and they're mad. So I had an individual, excuse me, that's not how I word this. An individual died, and he was very unhappy that he passed away. In this death, he had fallen off a bike, and he had rolled out of his body and then stood up. And when he turned around, his body was there, but he was not part of it. He couldn't get back in it. So his neighbor, who was part of the well, they Jewish people have quite a few celebration type of things going on, and so in the synagogue they were the first day or second. I don't know how it works. He was pacing back and forth, and this client of mine is very, very intuitive. He could hear the guy yelling that I'm not dead. Well, why didn't he pass over? Who was supposed to greet him? Well, we are all having a choice. So Patrick Swayze in Ghost, when he got shot, and his Demi Moore was his lady, not his wife but his partner, he could have gone on, and he chose not to. I think that's probably more common than we realize, because the spirit people feel like they want to be around us. Like this fellow, he looks almost 100% clear. Why isn't he gone on? Well, he could have come back. So I think there's a line between stepping over to the other side, obtaining all the knowledge of the universe, seeing dead relatives for 10, 15, 20 years. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And then they can come back and visit. That is a spirit visitation. Like when you have a dream, you have a spirit visitation. Okay, so I want to go on. So What Dreams May Come shows us the other side of comfort from spirit. You can overdo it. And if you feel a spirit person's around you and you're getting depressed, tell them I need a rest. I need to recover a little bit. Then come when I feel better. So we talk about the living, but what about the individual has passed away? This goes way back. I have a client, and she was an FBI agent. And downtown Sacramento, they have an FBI headquarters. And she gave me a tour. I can't remember what prompt I didn't at the time. I remember thinking, I get to go into the FBI headquarters? Is that legal? What am I seeing? But she gave me a tour, and we went from one building to another. They had a breeze with like two pillars, and there was one in the middle. because the top of us was glass and or a lot of glass. And I walked by and she said, well, they're doing an autopsy in there. Well, of course I have to look, right. And I guess my mind turned toward that door. It was open. And I think maybe it's so common down there. But any time there's a death that, well, there must be a lot of circumstances. I'm not going to try to conjecture. But when I looked, I went, oh, autopsy. But my mind, I think what happened is I caught that there was a spirit watching. And that was in a theater and an area where they're doing autopsy with rows of seat going up like in a teaching room. So that could have been an instruction room, but then they use it for autopsies. I can't answer it. And this quite tall lady was standing watching it. And I said to her, what are you doing there? She says, I want to know what they're doing. And the sense of her words was the word curiosity. Curiosity. Just, I want to watch. And I thought to myself, well, that's the last thing I want to watch. I'm done with that old piece of meat. Done with it, done. But there must have been a reason why she was watching. And I thought to myself, well, you don't have to be here. Isn't there somewhere else you can go? No. And then it occurred to me that was an indifferent statement. It was with indifference. And I thought, does she not have family anywhere? Is there nowhere else that she would want to go? Like there was no memory, there was no thoughts of children, husband, work. She wasn't somebody that appeared, she was dressed nice, light slacks and a dark top, shorter brown hair. And I thought to myself, I don't think she was homeless. Didn't have the sense of nothing. And I was caught off guard. I was caught off guard because there was no emotion to it. And I'll explain this later on. Because it was FBI headquarters, I assumed that this was an investigation and the manner of death was important. The spirit did not tell me any details or how or why, but of curiosity of what they were doing, like someone watching the process. I had received a call from a police person in Auburn, California on a case, which I don't do that very often. I'm part of this group and that group, but I find it hard to investigate missing or dead people because I depend on the spirit person. And a lot of people can do that remote viewing, and I can do that, but I cannot come up with location coordinates. Like there was a case they just sent up, a young man getting lost. Well, I saw him tripping down have you had sidewalk? And then this is Arizona. I didn't know it was Arizona. I thought, God, that looks like like Nevada. He slipped. His shoe slipped. He slid down this little embankment, and I could see an overhang like a culvert. You know how big the state is? So where do you look? Well, he showed me that, but I don't know if he's dead. He just showed me because I was able to hook into him. So I find it very frustrating at times not to be able to do that. Animals, wasn't your friend I find the dog, right, Jar? Wasn't your friend? Was it you?
Yeah.
And I can find the dogs, because they go, oh, I'm having so much fun watching. So anyway, the murder of this is Auburn, California. Police lady called me, and it was about a murder of a woman. Well, she showed me some. She showed me. She said, "Look what my husband did." Sorry about this hair. And I thought, well, what? What did he do? Well, he rolled her up in a blank carpet, and then carried her and the carpet out to a blue truck. And he showed me the front of the house, and I gave all this description to the lady. She says, that's exactly how the house looks. How do you know that? I go, well, the spirit lady's telling me, showing me the house and where all this happened. But again, not necessarily anger, but from a perspective, well, this is what happened. There was not a lot of terribleness. It's like there was some, okay, that life's over, but this is what's happening. I'm going to show somebody so the information goes somewhere else. I found that to be also very interesting. No emotion in watching, just this is what he did. Did he get caught? Yes, he did eventually. Yeah. Was it based on what I said? Probably not. I won't own that because that's too big. Of the many NDEs I have witnessed on YouTube and people have told me, people who have died to return. So you hear about someone who's had a heart attack or they got hurt and they died and then came back. Many expressed of watching their body. either from the hospital um, emergency room or a surgical room. They float to the ceiling and they look at that piece of meat on the table and they go, "Oh, is that me? Ooh!" And then some of them will go into the tunnel and they get to see the guides. And a lot of times you'll hear about them saying, "I saw talk to my Jesus or the deity of their choice." And when they brought back, they go, "Well, what did you do that for?" And of course, they're brought back. And a lot of I do watch this because this is important for me to know too. And they'll say, "I have a new outlook on life. I'm not afraid of dying anymore because I know where I can get to go." And the ones who are pulled back in the bodies often talk to the doctor about what happened. Of course, it's hard to believe that sort of thing. And then the next thing they'll say is, "I wish you hadn't brought me back." "Oh, but you have children, you have a husband, you have a career in life." When you're out of the body, it doesn't seem to matter as much. That doesn't mean that they're all indifferent. It doesn't mean that they don't have the feelings and emotions of life, because when they come back, they seem to have a greater. Um, Someone told me they thought I had passed away as an adult, possibly with my surgeries, and I have no memory. No one's ever told me anything because my devotion to the divine and staying with this is it's a teardrop just like that. So there seems to be a love that I can't explain or how did that happen. It's greater than I can explain. It's a kind of amazing to me because I could have retired, I could have given this all up, and there's something in here that says no, you can do this and keep it going. I mean, why not, right? So then I'll express this. Of the many entities of people who have died in return, many express seeing what was happening and being in a place of acceptance, and if progressed to a point of seeing the afterlife, their family agreed them, and the only afterlife family, they will sometimes say, "Not your time." Rarely do they get a choice, and that's when someone's on the brink, like in a childhood death. The family was here, and the woman then went to the afterlife and said, "You can go back if you want." So there seems to be points that people can make a decision, but I haven't heard of that too often. The ones that come back are meant to come back, I always think, right? But at the time they're over there, this one woman, she just had a baby and she had an embolism, something, and she died. And she completely forgot about the new infant, completely forgot about the husband, completely. And then people will call me up and say, what are you saying? I mean, they're not here to tell us they miss us and they love us and they're going to take care of us. And they will do that. But in the throes of dying, that is removed from their conscience so they can make a decision. I find that very fascinating. So this builds up to a point I'm going to make in a minute. Sometimes the spirit people will say, your family needs you. You just had a new baby, or you've been in a car wreck and you can go back. There's one child. If I Should Stay is a movie of a young girl that was in a car accident. And it's a wonderful movie, If I Stay. So write that down, everybody. And it talks about she evidently is in a coma and she's visiting her father in California, and she's come and is with him, and she appears solid. And it's the determinant of what her future will look like. And so it's I'm not going to give it away. I shouldn't. Really a good story. If I Should Stay. Anyway, the last thing would be needed. Or yes, family still needs me statement of being needed. I heard a couple of times with women who died in return after childbirth. No, not always can you just return. Clearly, the body has to be not damaged. That returning is feasible. And that is what happened to my father. He got in a car accident. And he had two children. He had a brand new business he's opened up in Florida. He worked for Universal Studios. His life was going to change. He was only 33. And he got hit and killed by 3 Korean War veterans coming home from celebrating. They lived through the Korean War and came back and got killed on the night they celebrated. It's just not fair. Who says it's fair, right? The reason I discussed the above is not to tell you how I feel. And I don't ever make anything up. I'm up that. Yes, I like to write, and I write some fiction, and I'm going to write 8 more. I have them all lined out. Da, 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 da. But these stories are so astounding to me. And spirit people tell me, how did you die? Feeling of cancer. Maybe a smoker. I have no idea. Or was it stomach cancer? I don't know. So anyway, people die from different means, and he probably is visiting. Maybe someone in this chat room needs to know he's back or visiting. Um, so anyway, his body was so damaged from the car accident that even if he as a spirit person went to visit family, it would be unfortunate because he wouldn't have had a chance to come back. The reason I discussed the above is for you to be comfortable with the idea that death is not the end. Gently, I say that we are all spirits having a human experience. I love that statement. I didn't make it up. I heard it for years and years. Shari's probably heard it too. Um, we're having a human experience because our spirit is the true life. And when we go to the afterlife, um, I guess we feel more alive and the colors are greater and the experience is wonderful. With that thought and knowledge, our grief with the loss of the deceased, with the saying goodbye, closure, important funeral and cemetery process, I'd like to ask how you will handle knowing the deceased individual can choose to attend said events. Children seem to be generally whisked away by those whose duty is to protect the child and not to put the child in spiritual turmoil, witnessing the family's grief. And all these years, I've been to a few funerals and I've witnessed through remote viewing adults. All these years, I have seen two spirits, in cemeteries of children. Everybody else is adults. And gently, I'm going to say, the ones that were in the cemeteries, I believe the parent went and grieved so badly. And Charlotte knows of one where the boy died and the man grieved on the pedestal. Oh, that was reversed. The man stayed. But 99% of the time, the children are whisked away by grandparents or angels and taken care of immediately. So those children are not going to be flitting around the grieving parents. I think it's very emotionally unhealthy for the child. And a lot of times, children will return to that family immediately after dying. And one example of that is, Shar, I don't know if it was your show or somebody else. I heard of a man dying in the hospital, and his daughter was having a baby on some other part of the hospital. It was a boy, and when he was 5 years old, he said, "I was your dad." So these things can happen in minutes. I've heard people say 25 years, 50 years, 100 years, 500 years. I don't think it matters. I think that we who do this get an impression, and we want to stay with it. Yet, it seems like 25 years is an average, and it can go anywhere. It can be a few minutes, like the daughter who had the spirit of her father join with her baby when he was born, and up to how many decades. None of us know what our last life was. None of us. But yet, I've had flashes of me wearing a blue pajama-looking outfit as a boy, carrying what I look like as a teenager with a gun. But it feels like one of the concentration camps. So that would be during the war, 39 to 45. I was born in 48. Is that possible? Or would I make it up? Did I have a dream? Or did I watch a show and it stayed with me? There's no way to know. Yes, I've seen instances of children ghosts or apparitions. And you've seen these on ghost investigations where someone will say, there's always a child somewhere. I have yet to see all those children show up. So it could be that's your expectation, or the child stays where it was comfortable because they're expecting mother to come get the child. Very possible. I don't know. This may be difficult to hear, but I will say this very softly. We as parents, do we wish the child to stay with us? How many moms out there in the audience have lost a child and you want that child in your arms and you think about it all the time? I would like you to back off a little bit and release that child to grandparents. Because one thing we wouldn't want is the child to stay there, stay with you. You need to heal, and so does that child. It's very difficult. I wouldn't know how to talk to a mom that just lost a child because of that, because your grief is so paramount and right in your every moment you're alive, awake, you're thinking of this. Just it's a hard question to address, and I surrender to that. In a cemetery east of Roseville, California, I saw an infant sitting about a year old on the cement slab of his stone burial slab, waiting for mom to return. And that was very difficult because he was sitting there kind of like a jumper, and he was a chubby 1-year-old. And I was trying not to say anything, but it caught my attention. And I think the person that noticed that I was doing that, I didn't want that person to know that that child had not gone on. And you've seen the children running across the cemetery. There's a new one, a little toddler, 2 years old, waving and following, hey baby. That doesn't happen too often. That's very rare. Um, and the other thing is in a cemetery, when you have a nonverbal child, how in the world would I say, look for grandma? Got to be careful. Okay. Oops. So if you come across, um, okay. So if you come across a grave and the child is there, read the death date. If more than 50 years, surely the parents have crossed over. Express and send emotional love to that child and compassion. And say something to the child like, mommy and daddy. So the child remembers those expressions and will look. I've never seen a child spirit turn into a ghost or a ghoul. I don't know if they know what insanity is. I don't know. But I know if you get the attention of an infant or child that can say mommy and daddy, that would be the way to do it, because a parent wouldn't be very far off. That child would have a parent until they got the child. Depending if it's long enough, the child's parents do have passed away. You've got to make sure. 1800s, absolutely. 1920, 30, 40, absolutely. If you're attending a funeral and feel someone watching you, address the deceased and calmly say you are saying goodbye to the flesh, who he and she was. So if you're in a funeral, not cemetery, in a funeral, a lot of us will go in and you'll say, ooh, I feel that person is here. Don't drop your energy, because I don't want to think that you're going to get an attachment, but say the name of how you address them in life and say, I'm here to say goodbye to you and help your family grieve you. Just make it very soft, that you do believe they have survived, and you look forward to seeing them again in the future. And when you say something like that, your voice needs to be happier. I'm going to see you in the future, I'm sure. Don't say it like that. Say, and I'm going to see you again. We'll begin. We'll go whatever you had as a friendship. If you want to watch football and drink beer, we'll match up sometime in the future. So I call it sending them emotional sympathy and compassion. I think a funeral is hard because if you think about 100 people showing up, 95 of them are going to be so grieving, the energy in the room is going to be so compoundedly heavy that you cannot go in there and add to it. If you believe in survival, you'll say, the family who needed him or she or the child, we want to lighten it just enough so I can sense that person there and let them know that I know they're okay, because they're very desperate to let you know they've survived. The last sentence, as I said, sending them, we will catch up. Have a sense of joyness in your voice. I look forward to seeing you again in the future. Yay! So make them aware. Bring your voice up. Don't yell. Don't talk loud. Just go to where you sense them and say it quietly. While walking around in a cemetery or a funeral, if you sense other souls who have decided to stay, this is in a cemetery, at their grave as ghosts, they've gone insane. And on TV shows, you'll see this a lot in buildings or haunting locations. I come in knowing, and we've done that with Shar and other people, but I've also been told by owners of buildings, by the way, Nancy, you're going to be on the radio show, we're going to talk about this or whatever it was, but don't tell them to leave. Shar and I talked about this. I said, they don't want, and unfortunately, that's how they make their money, by having these spirit people around. Mm-hmm. So I will always encourage, if it's possible for me, to help somebody pass over. But I'm considerate of the owners. If the cemetery, so be it. If it's any resident, so be it. The fellow that lives with us in here, he can go anytime he wants. He's not stuck to the house. He just likes being around my husband. That's really strange. I shower them sympathy. and compassion, and I'll say something. You are still here? What are you doing here? And it's with passion I say that. Ask them to think, why are you here? And do you have any idea how long you've been here? And what that is that you point a question to them. And it's like they could be insane. They could be laying. I talked to this one spirit, and it was a big glob on the wall. And even though I couldn't even see where the head was, it was just like they lost like a big orb, but solid against the wall, it looked like tar. It was really gruesome. But at the same time, when I said something, I could I could sense they stopped wiggling, almost like I'm being talked to. Who's this? And so you want to break that concentration of them self-pity or whatever it is they're mulling themselves around with. Um, and make them wonder of the passage of time. That's going to be difficult because you need to find out about what era it is. When you became a spirit, I was not born yet. My mother was not born yet. Huh? Give them a feeling. Once you wake them up, I'll say to them, who do you miss? Do you remember your mom? Remember your dad? Just talk to them. They don't necessarily want to be stuck. They're longing. I'm not going to address the idea of bad people who've done terrible things and they're afraid to pass over. You don't want to go there. You just want to be positive. They've suffered enough. They have grieved enough. They have thought about their actions were enough. Let's get them out of that location. And the downside of that is that sometimes if you get them mad enough or you get them anxious or upset, they'll just attach themselves to you. And that's the last thing you need is have them come home with you. Ask them why they have stayed so long. Try to get more conversation. Why are you still here? And Sean's heard me say, what are you here for? Come on. Talk to us. And then sometimes I'll just say, why don't you just open your eyes and see if you find anybody that you know? A lot of times it's parents. A lot of times it's a lover. This does not always work. No, does not. Yet to plan a thought, that's what it takes. Just a thought. Because it could take a year or 10 years to start really thinking about, wait a minute, what did you say? Oh, how long have I been here? Well, it looks pretty ugly in here. It looks like an old building now. That's how they break the spell, as I would call them. That's the key to waking them up. At the end of a funeral, be aware of any energy that does not deal of an energy you recognize. And so what I do feel like happens is that spirit people or ghost people are attracted to groups of people. They want to know what the crowd is about because they're wanting to find somebody or an energy that they can join with. And as Shar and I've talked many times, can I have a little sip of you? I go, suck up your life force, honey. Be aware of any energy around that does not feel of someone you recognize. Say you at a place and when my mother shows up, I have a sense of her because I can almost remember what she smells like. How many times you hugged your grandma and grandpa? Well, that you would recognize. But if you don't, who's that? Yuck, yuck. Please, let's get that person with you. You are not invited around me. Please back away from me. I cannot help you today or tomorrow. Please look for your family that want you to go with them. A parent or a partner or a child. They want you to pass to them to the heavenly light heights. We've talked to this before. You have to identify a spirit by the era. You use their language, you use something that they recognize to get their attention. That's not always possible. And I do believe that people can spend a lot of time at cemeteries, but they can spend a lot of time at funerals because sometimes they'll forget where they saw their loved one last. So sometimes when people die in discord, or they've had a terrible death, or it was unplanned, they'll go to where they remember seeing you. And if it's a cemetery, so be it. If it's a funeral home, my gosh, how many funerals are held at funeral homes? Lots. And I don't know how many there are. When I've been to some, And most of the time, I only feel the decedent. But I know there have been others. And you cannot help them. And you have to just say it. I don't know you. Stay away from me. And sometimes people forget, uh, if they can understand English. Someone said to me, I want you to have a reading. It was a fellow in Greece. And so he called his aunt. It was a three-way phone call. I heard the, and she was writing. And then she'd asked me the question. And I gave her the answer in English. And then it was passed on to the fellow. So how is that possible? How can I give an answer in English when it should have been in Greek? How do I get answers from his parents? Because I think that the conversation in humanness is that, and somehow in the ether we can understand people. I have a lady in China that I read really quite regularly, and I go to her father or her man friend, and they don't speak any English, yet I can talk to them. How does that work? I don't know. Do not assume or question them if they decide to stay for evil deeds. You'll assume they have paid their price of feeling guilty or becoming stuck. It's not for us to try and determine that. So you cannot determine if someone's evil. It could be what they call the anxiety of their guilt is what you're feeling. And I do believe that spirits do go insane and become what you call the demon. It's because they're so insane they can't figure, they just go crazy. Have I known crazy? Yeah, I've known crazy. And it goes way beyond that, way beyond it. They become so desperate and they forget what they look like. And when they put themselves together so they can be seen, it can be very grotesque because they forgot what they look like as human. And unfortunately, it can even be more than that. I've actually seen what we call the alien spirits, and they're just aliens. Do they go to a different lifetime and project that? I don't think so. But I do feel like if you're insane, how about a child 2 or 3 years old? Draw a picture of mommy and dad. Well, that's what they do to their whole body. And you're going to get whatever they're thinking. You're going to see how they think of themselves. And that looks like the demons that we all talk about. Over time, I have realized it is better to remove these individuals so not for someone else to come rouse them up and they attach themselves to unknowing humans. If it's possible, a cemetery tour or an investigation or funeral home, if you're able to get their attention, which would be very difficult to know, except in the cemetery, if you're in a funeral home, everybody's grieving, is to see if you can talk them into going. And then I can't remember, Shar was a couple of the times going homes, and you release somebody and the air goes poof, like that. It's wonderful. You can feel them going into what we call the portal. And that's happened quite a few times.
Here's a question from Michelle. Would poltergeist activity be an insane ghost?
Oh, that's a good. I think you can. Yeah. I'm trying to think of a case. I also want to say that people who pass away in their homes become possessive of their homes. Mm-hmm. And I was watching a show one night, and this young man living in England has a small galley kitchen, and things were all going out. And I instantly saw a man so mad that this young man's living in his home that he's just throwing his arms like this and then throwing energy all around. That man wasn't insane. He was possessive. He didn't want anybody in his space. So to me, that's poltergeist. That's not necessarily.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories out there, even in the Gold Country here in California, of people who are remodeling those old hotels. Oh, and they'll put wallpaper up they'll put new wallpaper up on the walls, take off, go to lunch, come back, and it's all peeled back down by something. So yeah.
That's not a demon. That's someone who says, "Wait a minute."
They can be insane ghosts, or in a lot of cases, poltergeist also can happen from a child going through puberty. Mm-hmm. They can cause that activity. It's emotions that cause it. This couple that we went out and did an investigation with in Folsom, they had a very bad argument, and they'd been arguing every night, but they would never resolve it before they went to bed. And they started to hear banging in their walls and whatnot. And it turned out that's what was causing it, was that they weren't resolving it. And so they were causing all this poltergeist activity. So it can be caused by, like Nancy says, an insane ghost, by a kid going through puberty, and by not resolving your emotions.
Absolutely. And to me, it looks like the sun They take pictures. We just had an eclipse, so the moon moves right over in front of it. And if you take a picture of what the sun looks like, the
Mhm.
sun has these explosions of energy. That's what a human looks like.
Mhm.
Um, so we're talking about a cemetery now. After getting in your car before you leave, I would like you to sit in your car and visualize a ball of energy surrounding you. And you say, whomever is with me, I release you to your angels for
Mhm.
protection and your comfort. Saying these words with expression and conviction. I do not want anybody around me. I want you to wake up. I want you to look around with compassion and mean it and say, I don't need to have you follow me. You look around and find your angel. Angel people, heavenly beings, I call them. Angel, I've not seen angels with wings. I just seen with elements of bright lights all around them. I do feel like they can come and not just be your family. And the reason is sometimes if a spirit is going insane, they will pay attention to the brilliance of an angel. It's because
Mhm.
it's so extraordinary. So sometimes you have to ask for an angel to come and do a rescue,
Mhm.
and they will come and
Mhm.
get the person. I have sensed a startled feeling with the spirit and ghost, and the sense to look up in surprise to see what you meant. So after you leave a funeral home or a cemetery tour, if you can speak, I just don't want anybody with me. I want you to look around and see if the angel's with you, because
Mhm.
you need not come home with me. I cannot help you. And
Mhm.
that idea that, wait a minute, I know what that means, angel. Oh my, you think there's an angel? Sometimes just waking them up gets them to look around. Time is, and then you might, um, so that you startle them and they look and they see an angel, and then the angel take, and then you might go and say, well, how did the spirit know that you were going to say that? I believe that time is very fluid. I live in past, present, future all the time. If I can access it, you imagine how easy it is to know, oh, where's Nancy go? Oh, she's going to some. Well, you mean that fool's going to get in the car with her? By the way, I'm going to send Henry the angel to take that fool away. Who
Also,
knows?
that's why there's a lot of stories of ghosts going home with people, but they only stay around like 2 or 3 days because suddenly they realize that's not where they belong. So then they'll just leave.
Sometimes, not
Yeah,
always.
yeah, not
Sometimes you
always.
have what we call the hitchhiker,
Yes,
and that's very, very difficult because they're not so much insane as much as needy, and
right.
they're needy for your hunger of your smoking or cigarettes or indulgences of any kind. Um, Amazing. I can go somewhere and I'll turn the switch on and I feel people all around, like in a restaurant or shopping, or
Hmm.
walk by a candy store, or walk by a smoke shop, or anywhere. Just amazing, amazing. And I did address foreign languages. I really don't know how I can talk to people who don't speak English. Like I said, it's my pronunciation of some of the English words, heaven forbid. I took French in high school. Boy, I could
Hmm.
hear it, I can read it, I couldn't speak it. So it's like, duh. Um, when you're talking to somebody in a cemetery, sometimes if they were of different languages, almost every language understands the word angel, celestial being. Say whatever you want. So there's 3 cemeteries here, and one's Christian, one is Asian, and the other one is mixed. I'm not positive it's a Jewish one or not. But the Asian one, if I went there, how would I address the Asian peoples? I would envision an angel in my mind and send it to them. Watch for this. But yeah, they're Buddha, but they have angels. I mean, they have celestial beings. Okay. With the word comfort, this is comfortable. This person's going to help you.
Hmm.
That's hard for me to address. Um, oops. Okay, I got a little bit more. So this is back to the family. When you acknowledge the grieving family members, it's often better not to talk. This is just common sense I want to back up on. We have a tendency, and I learned this in 2 cases of hospice classes. You have to allow them to talk. They're the ones that are dying. But you also want to have the same program for the grieving. They don't necessarily want you to do all the talking unless they ask you a question. They're trying to get out of their body their grief. So you need to acknowledge the grieving people, mother, father, brother, sister. whoever is the grieving person, allow them to talk about the person. And you might say, how was this person good for you? What do you remember positive times? I did worked in Tombstone, had a little shop, and this lady comes in with this, and I mentioned this a few weeks back, and it just popped in my head. She was grieving over this fella that they had gone out in the morning, and he got blown up in a Jeep. Well, before they all went back, you have to pick up all those body parts up
Oh.
because, yeah, you get blown up in Jeep, you know that the guys behind you who don't get blown up, they're going to pick up the pieces and take you back. So they
Mhm.
had to do that with this young man, and this woman could not recover. And I walked in, she walked in, I went, oops, because that's not fun to look at. And he was all put together, but there was red lines all over him like he'd been blown up. And I said, young man got killed and looked like he'd been blown up. Her eyes got this big. I ended up talking to everybody, including their instructor. It's like, I want to talk to that woman. And he said to her, remember breakfast. I thought, that's interesting. I'll say, he wants you to remember him at breakfast. And then in her mind, she showed me the metal tables that they were eating at, and evidently he must have sat across from her. He was really close, and they were laughing. And she remembered a happy moment. And as I looked at him, he became knitted together. She no longer was watching him being blown up. She was watching him, remembering him solid. So if you have, remember I did this in one of your shows, if you have the destruction of the body and someone sees it, you don't want to remember them as that. And it's like people die and they have these terrible conditions of the body. Remember them before that. And that's very, very important because that heals the spirit. Okay. Show compassion. Don't do all the talking. Ask them to remember the person positive. Ask them to talk about the person in a positive light. You show compassion, you show hugs, or holding hands, or giving them emotional support. Sometimes they can break down. That's when the body cannot handle the stress anymore. And the only thing you can do is just be there for comfort. Very difficult to help a cemetery, a funeral and have that happen, let alone when they drive to the cemetery. That can be very, very difficult. They want to throw themselves on the cemetery, on the coffin. You have to restrain them and say, we don't want to mess the coffin, the flowers and everything. We want everybody to see how beautiful it is so that she hears that is beautiful, or he. Um, if they want to talk, you listen, acknowledge their emotional pain, let them direct the conversation. Let them direct the conversation. Better to not input too much and just use soft language like, so sorry. That is your job if you're not also grieving. But if you're a spiritual, it's becoming where you're comfortable with the idea we do survive. Maybe they haven't. You have to get support. If you listen to me for a while, understand that we survive. Acknowledge the deceased by speaking softly under your breath. So sorry you died. We are here to help your family through their grief. Would it be better for you to not be here? So I'll go back to what dreams may come. When, as a spirit person, Robin Williams goes to his wife while she's at his cemetery. And as he embraced her, she was overwhelmed by the feeling of him. And she kind of backtracked a little bit of her healing. And that's when he said, I'll go to the heaven and wait for her. Um, So I've gone to a lot of funerals. I've gone to a lot of cemeteries. I've gone to a lot of people dying, people calling me up about the spouse, and I talk about a lot of death, and it's just part of living. So I attended this funeral, and is so and so here? And I looked around. I saw the minister. I looked at the casket, and he was behind the casket, which was on pedestals, just pacing back and forth, back and forth. And I says, "Oh my gosh, he's not in a good space. He's just passing back and forth." And I was told that all four of his ex-wives were there.
Jeez.
She, right? Who can make this story up, right? And I thought to myself afterward, he's a spirit person. He shouldn't even be carrying. But his children were there also. So he was worried that the ex-wives would start talking and his children would hear. So he didn't care about the ex-wives. He cared about what the children thought of him. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Um, this was shown to me that even though we can pass over and acquire all the knowledge of the universe and all the understanding of why we were all created, can you also see your past lives? Was he witnessing past lives of these four women? I don't know. Why are we here? What was the reason? Well, clearly, he wasn't done with his emotional attachment to his children. And when all four wives showed up, he was very, I call them ex-partners because he was married and divorced 4 times, who can show up and talk to each other. It appears that we can pass immediately going through the tunnel, seeing deceased family and friends to greet us, or staying past later after attending our own funerals. And over the years, I can't remember a funeral where someone didn't go.
Mm-hmm.
But in my own life, I don't want a funeral. I want pizza and champagne in a park. And I do not want unhappy, because it's like you have to decide how you live in your life. Are you happy? And are you living and breathing every single day to the fullest? And we don't. We try. I can twirl around and be a crazy lady and try to do too much and get all worn out. I'm crazy that way. I love it. But I also realize that we put our bucket list together. Even if you don't do it, dream it, think it, investigate. I'll never travel to Egypt and see a pyramid. But my golly, they sure have a lot. I just saw something on Facebook. On top of a pyramid, they had this camera do a 180 and you can slip around. Very fun. We don't have to travel anymore. Today's technology allows us to travel. As long as you do something. The other thing is I want to learn chess. I took chess 40, 50 years ago. And I have a beautiful chess set. I thought, it'd be fun to learn again. So there are things on your bucket list. At least try to get to them, everybody. Then you won't have a questionable afterlife. Well, I hope I covered. Remember, this is probably a 10-hour class. And I did the best I could, everybody. How's that, huh?
Right on.
Right on.
You know, I was thinking about your story about the guy with the four ex-wives. And we did an investigation quite a while ago at the Brookdale Lodge. Famous place. It's where the little girl supposedly fell and died in the brook, and she's still running around in there. And it was and the place that had its heyday during Prohibition. So you had a lot of mobsters in there. So we are in the main bar. We're in this bar area, and I at that time I was filming the show, California Haunts. And there was one particular ghost or gangster that was in there that didn't want to talk to us or talk to the psychic. And when we asked him why, he said because he was there with his mistress. And he was afraid his wife would find out. But it's funny because you got to figure, here it was like the year probably around 2009, something around there. And this man had been dead probably since Prohibition times, so since the 30s. And he was still concerned about his wife finding out that he had this mistress there.
The guilt kept him here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the show, I just watched it the other night, and I record everything. So I watch it later on. The show, I apologize, was that Ghost? It's on Wednesday or Thursday night. And one of the ghosts evidently killed herself. Mm-hmm. In the owner of the house, and they all found out, not an accident like the rest of them. So her guilt kept her as a ghost. And I thought, in the process of admitting why she killed herself, I was kind of wondering if she's going to get to pass over now, because she's addressed the idea that she did kill herself, not for selfish, but to keep the money for her son, the house. She had evidently hired children to work in her factories, and now the government was coming after her. And she killed herself so that the money would stay with the son. That would keep a spirit from passing over.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm a bad person. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And according to her, in her mind. Huh?
Yeah. Or the gentleman that Trish and I and my team crossed over in Yolo County that was there because he had burned the house down because he was angry at his parents. And he didn't realize his mother was in the house when he burned it down.
Oh my gosh!
So he was stuck there for years and years because he.
I remember you telling me that.
He felt horribly guilty, So that happens as well.
Well, if you've enjoyed this, I think all this is so interesting. I just want to acknowledge hello, Marissa and Jerry,
Michelle,
and Michelle Lee. Hello, dear. What's wrong? Scrolling. Yeah, something's wrong here.
See, your buttons aren't working, and mine aren't either. Mercury's still in retrograde. I can tell.
I talked to a gal the other day, really firmly. I can't feel it, but this scroll thing, all of a sudden, a screen went like that. I went, oh, oh.
Well, there's been weird things happening on Facebook too, where you'll go on your stuff, and the first couple things show up, and then the rest aren't there, and then what you can see is kind of flashing. It's just really weird stuff going on Facebook, even. So who
Well,
knows?
I've enjoyed tonight. I hope you all learned a little more than you did before you started listening. And
I did.
Did you?
I did.
You learned something?
I did. Yeah.
Oh, you have to tell me later on if
I'm
you
still
don't want to
learning
mention.
things. I'm still learning things as I go.
Well, I
I am.
sometimes forget how many thousands of readings I've done, and I've learned so much about spirit people. I would say at least a third of my readings are almost all spirit, and then
Right.
I have the combination, and then a third would be relationships. Absolutely, makes the world go around.
Absolutely.
Relationships are very difficult nowadays because we are looking outside of our areas, and they're cross country and across the world. And I'm kind of like very not so. So 3 ladies in the past year have been scammed. Hello, sweetie, scammed by people out of the area, and they'll say, "Oh, I don't want to do Zoom with you. I'm getting ready, or I'm going to have to leave, or I'm on a ship, or I'm flying." And it's like anybody gives you that line, everybody, sayonara.
Anybody that tells you they're in love with you after 3 or 4 hours of conversation, sayonara.
Yeah,
You know?
that's too fast.
Or if
Well,
they send you a photo and the head looks really out of proportion to the neck, fail on that one too. You got to watch this.
so in the chat room, if you have any thoughts of what you'd like me to talk about, I'm always open to suggestions.
Absolutely, we want to keep these shows going.
Yeah.
We want to keep these things pumping. Along
Yeah.
that note, thank you everybody who has hopped on board. We have a bunch of new, people that subscribe to us, and then people in the like section over at Facebook that are following us. So thank you. I look forward to working with you guys. If you guys have ideas, like Nancy says, shoot them out to me. I'm more than willing.
Yeah.
If you're an author or you have a book that you think would fit in well with the show, shoot me an email. Let me know about it. I'm more than willing to have people on. So, I'm just trying to keep the ball rolling here. I mean, that's what we're here for. We will be doing our 200th show for this season on Wednesday.
Wow. Really? On Wednesday?
Yep. That'll be for season 4, our 200th show.
Wow.
For this season.
So who are you having on?
I can't remember offhand. But it's going to be a good one. You guys will get those tomorrow anyway. You'll get to see who it is. On that note, Sunday, of course, I will be back at 6 p.m. Pacific, reading from Scottish Ghost Stories. It took me a second. Reading from Scottish Ghost Stories.
I saw that.
Interesting book. Okay, Monday, we have a surprise guest on. We don't know what we're going to do yet. So it could be Yoda, the Yoda Lego setup, or Nancy may come back on Monday, or it could be somebody else coming in. So you're just going to have to wait till tomorrow night to find out when I send out that stuff. Because if you guys like this conversation with Nancy and I today about this cemetery stuff, maybe she'll come back on Monday and talk about it too.
Yep. Just give us an idea or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm open to everything.
Yeah.
After all these years is not a topic I haven't approached.
Yeah, let us know. Also, since I have all your undivided attention, I have had team members retire, and I've got around 5 spots open on my team. And what that entails to join my team is there is a 2.5, 3-hour class you have to go through of a Ghost Hunting 101 class, and I will teach you all that I know, all that's up here that I've learned over 18 years about ghost hunting. I will train you and teach you that. And you have to take that class before you'll even be considered to be a member of this team. Because once you take that class, if you like what you hear, and it doesn't seem overwhelming for you, then you say, hey, I'd like to go on to the next step. Then I train you about the equipment and how you use the equipment, what the equipment does. And then we go from there. Then you get to come out on an investigation. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, we are one of the biggest paranormal teams on the West Coast. And If you want to be a part of that, and like I said, we've been around for 18 years, so we're one of the longest standing paranormal teams on the West Coast. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, go over to the California Haunts Meetup page. You can find it under California Haunts Paranormal Investigations Meetup, and sign up under events. You'll see it there. And like I said, we have investigators all over the state of California. So, I mean, if you're in the Bay Area, we're fine with that. I mean, it doesn't matter because, we're trying to get people out everywhere. We have good coverage to be everywhere. So come on over and sign up, and we'll set that up for you to get you trained and everything. If that sounds like something we're interested in. Okay. Well, I think we're done. I've said my piece, and maybe Nancy will be back with us Monday. We'll see. I'll have to talk to Nancy, and then I'll bribe her. I've got donuts. I'll bribe her. But we'll see what we can do about Monday. But again, I will see you guys for sure on Sunday with Scottish Ghost Stories. There also might be a ghost hunt tomorrow at a residence. My internet's giving me trouble still, so I cannot go live, but I will be filming short excerpts there that I will be sharing with you guys. So, yeah.
Like that.
We'll see what we can do for that, okay? I can't upload them right away, but after I get home, blah, blah, blah. So, you guys will be, getting the look-see into that if everything goes down tomorrow, because I haven't heard from the client yet. So we'll see. But it's going to be a residential, so it should be an interesting investigation. Okay, let me share you some information from Nancy on how to find her and her books and all that good stuff. And then we're going to blow this pop stand until Sunday. So here we go. See if I can did it again. Took the button out. See that? There we go. Wrong button. I've never seen it do that before. Must be a new update.
Uh-oh.
Okay, here we go. All right, websites. nancymatz.com, the whole thing's lowercase. The second one, nancymatzauthor.com. The N, the M, and the A are capped. And youtube.com/Nancy Matz Psychic. Okay. Help Get Me Out of This Funk. That's one of the books that Nancy has out. Two Worlds, Developing Your Psychic Skills. And we have the Unwilling Sacrifice. And of course, you can get those at Amazon and check out Nancy's site. She's got some really cool information on those sites. And visit her YouTube. Okay, guys.
I've enjoyed this night. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
If you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hated the show, share it with 5 other people. I mean, we're trying to get the word out about our little show, and I'm so excited to be around 148 away from 1,000 subscribers on YouTube right now. Wow. So we're getting there, inch by inch. So thank you very much, everybody, and I will see you on Sunday for sure, 6 p.m. Pacific, Scottish Ghost Stories. Have a great one.
Good night, everybody.